Here we have an Xbox Series X game console that came in for repair. We already disassembled the board, and right off the bat I see a missing HDMI connector and ripped pads. This board is coming from Arkansas, and let's read what the customer wrote. Referral source found through YouTube search. Description: I acquired an Xbox Series X from a friend of mine in hopes that I could fix it for him. Unfortunately, 3 of the HDMI port pads are ripped off, and I do not have the skills yet to perform that kind of a repair. Fortunately, the traces for all the pads are still intact. I watched some of your videos in hopes that I could figure it out myself, but unfortunately, I'm better off practicing before I perform a repair that I do not have the skills for. I love the informative videos that you put out, which is the main reason I decided to contact your company about having this repaired for a good friend of mine. There really aren't any motherboard repair places in the area I live in, so I'm glad that I can mail it to you, period. So the customer attempted to fix this for his friend, and he mentioned that he ripped off 3 pads. He watched a lot of our videos and he thought it's an easy fix, but working on those boards is not an easy fix. It takes a lot of practice. You need to know your hot air station. You need to know how much heat to apply. You need to know when to pull on the HDMI connector so you do not rip pads. The board takes a lot of heat to melt solder. It's a very thick board. And you have to remember, solder will only melt when the board is saturated with heat and it reaches the melting temperature of solder. That's the only time solder will melt. And that board is going to suck heat like you've never seen because it's a very thick board, a lot of thermal mass. So you may point your hot air station for 20 minutes on this board if you have a cheap hot air station and nothing will happen. Now I see an attempt to restore that trace, or maybe not. That's the same trace that was on the board. So this one goes here and this one goes here. We already have this trace. We have to restore this one, and we have to restore this one, and we have to restore this one. What can you do? Do we have any missing components here? We do not. And other than this, I do not see anything obvious. Let's flip the board. And it's obvious the customer did not apply any low melt solder. I always mention low melt solder in every video of ours. Low melt solder will lower the melting temperature of unleaded solder, so it takes less heat to melt solder. We're going to use it here so we can clean the holes. I do not see any missing components here. Okay, so let's go ahead and restore the pads. The first thing we want to do is clean the holes. The customer is right about practicing first because it's impossible to do this on your first try, second try, or even 10th try. It takes a lot of practice, good tools. You have to understand your hot air station, your soldering station, what type of solder you are using, good flux. Good tools are 60% of the job, or maybe 50% of the job, because if you are an expert, you can still use cheap tools to do the job. So I would not say that great tools will help you do 70% of the job. No, 50% of the job are good tools and 50% experience using the tools. Anybody can install Adobe Photoshop. You have the program, but you do not know how to use it. So experience is important. Some people do wonders in Adobe Photoshop, and others, they do not know how to draw a basic square. Same thing here. You may have the tools, but you still need the experience, the hands-on experience. NF.flux, and we're going to saturate the holes with low melt solder. Fume extractor on. Do not work without a fume extractor. If you do not already have one, you do not have the proper tools, I've done the research for you. All those tools are on our website. Everything from soldering station, this amazing microscope, Flux, braid wig, low melt solder, whatever we use on our bench here professionally, we have on our site. Save yourself the hassle of looking around. What should I buy? What tool is good? What tool is not good? I did that for you. Hot air stations are currently out of stock. We are working on it to get them back in stock. The articulating arm for the microscopes are out of stock. I just want to saturate the holes with low melt solder, so I apply low melt over unleaded. It mixes. So now when we apply heat, solder will liquefy faster. Because now the melting temperature is the combination of unleaded and low melt. Low melt melts at a very low temperature. Unleaded is stubborn. It takes a lot of heat to melt it. And it's not even smooth when it melts. So now what we're gonna do is, I'm not gonna be able to show you this under the microscope because I'm gonna be using the NF dot sucker. I'm gonna heat up from bottom of the board like this, and I'm gonna suck solder from the holes from the top using the NF dot sucker. Okay? Or I can even heat up from the top. I do not need to heat up from the bottom. We do not have any plastic components from the top, so it's safe to heat up from the top. Maybe I should have a camera pointing at my bench, so for moments like this you can see what I'm doing. Some people suggested this, but my problem is I'm always too busy from one item to another, and I do not always listen until I come to that point where I know I should have listened. Hole number 1 is done, hole number 2 is done, hole number 3 is done, and hole number 4 is done. 4 snaps with the NF dot sucker. Such an amazing tool. Unfortunately, the item is not in stock right now, and I just want to show you the results. Look at this. Clean. So we do see signs of flux on the board, or signs of something. The mailman just came and picked up your packages. So I feel like this wire is too short. Let's break it off. This wire is doable. We can keep it, or we can extend it, or we can create a new wire. One of the 3 options. As long as the wire is making a connection with the pin of the HDMI connector, then we should be good. And one thing I can tell you, when I first used the grinding pen, I showed you that we can use the grinding pen to expose copper from traces. The grinding pen was never used for that purpose before. It was used to drill holes in ICs. And that's how the grinding pen was marketed. Same thing with the thermal camera. The thermal camera was never used to diagnose components on the motherboard. The first time I used my Fleur E60 thermal camera, and they had no tiny thermal cameras or thermal cameras that attaches to your phones, or they never marketed thermal cameras as something to fix motherboards. After that video, companies started to come out with thermal cameras marketed for motherboard repairs, and then you started to see those tiny cameras that you can hook up to your phone. My only option back then was a big thermal camera, which is what I currently use, the Fleur E60. Expensive camera. It was like maybe $8,000–$9,000. I got it off somebody on Craigslist for $2,400, I think, back then. Maybe around 2015. Today it does not cost as much, and they do not make it anymore. It's been discontinued. The camera is a 240 by, what is it? 240 by 320. And the nice thing about the camera, well, it doesn't make that much of a difference, but the camera is 60 frames per second. And I guess anytime you go up to 60 frames per second, thermal cameras will become super expensive. But do you really need 60 frames per second? It's nice to have, but you do not need it. Your TV local channels that you watch are 24 frames per second, and everything is nice and smooth. And I feel like we should get rid of this trace. NF.Flux, and we're going to use our NF.Mini solder pen, which you can find on our site, along with the grinding pen. Like I said, whatever we use on our bench here, professionally, every day, you can find on our site. If you've ordered from us before, you know how fast we ship. And it's simple, NorthridgeFix.com, click on shop, add to cart, checkout, pay, and we almost always ship out same day. All items are in stock, unless the item is not in stock. Right? Okay, so the pads, they had unleaded solder on them. It's always preferable to clean unleaded before applying solder, but even if you apply leaded solder over unleaded, it's gonna mix and the excess is gonna go on your soldering iron tip. So it's gonna clean itself, but it takes more than one take. Now, one thing we have to do is just clean those pads here. We do not need them. They are currently poking out, so we need to flatten them. They are unleaded solder, so I just want to mix it with leaded and then wick and clean those pads. And then we're going to cut out this piece. It's going to interfere with our HDMI connector. Now we can also apply some heat so it can come off easy. It doesn't matter. And look at how easy the flux cleans. I'm using 420 degrees Celsius. I would go up to 430 maximum and not above. If you need more than 430 degrees Celsius for whatever reason, then you're really testing the limitations of the flux. We are working on a very high temp flux used for only high temp scenarios. I'll announce it when we have it. But NF.Flux works for 90% of scenarios when you are fixing a motherboard. Unless you really have to apply 500 degrees Celsius on a motherboard. Maybe you have an extremely thick board and you must apply such high temperature, then that's a different story. I fix 4090s, 5090s GPUs using this flux. 420, 430 degrees Celsius, amazing. I do not see anything thicker than a 5090. So let's apply a fresh layer of flux. We will fix it later, but for now I just want to lay the wires, and then we can use our anti-glare light and make everything nice and pretty. Let me use the anti-glare light so that we can see better. And look at the magic of the anti-glare light. If you do not already have one, you are missing out. Whether you are in the electronics business, or you are in the coin business, or you are in whatever business that requires a microscope, you are missing out if you do not have the anti-glare light. It's a whole different perspective of viewing an image. Again, look at the difference. No anti-glare light, anti-glare light. Tell me that's not amazing. Now, I do not want to apply a lot of solder mask because it's going to take longer to harden. So we just want to make a thin layer from the top and bottom so we can hold that wire. That way the wire is secured. UV mask is not used as a glue, but in this case we are dealing with a 0.1 millimeter wire. You do not know how tiny this wire is. You cannot see it with your naked eye. Very hard. So whatever you are seeing under the microscope here is extremely tiny, very, very tiny. And you always ask me if I can compare next to a penny, or I do have a nickel next to me. And that's the nickel. I mean, the wire may be half the size of each ridge on the side of the coin. And this coin does not have any ridges. The quarter does. Okay. Let me see if I can compare the size of the wire. You see the wire is smaller than the ridge on that coin. Very, very tiny wire. If you can hold up a coin, look at it, and you can see the ridges, you have 40/20 eyesight. Superman. You're an exception. You're not a human being. Superman. So that's why I left a little bit of the wire from the bottom and top so we can secure it with UV mask. Just part of the plan. I do not want the wire to move from the bottom when we solder the HDMI connector. I do not want it to move and touch the other pin, and that's why I secure it with UV mask. We already tinned the wires, so now all we need to do is apply flux, put a connector, and reflow it down in place. We're gonna apply flux. And if that flux is your friend, if you do not already have this flux, log into NorthridgeFix.com and you can purchase it along with all the other tools that we sell. We had a customer that purchased 50 syringes yesterday. Usually people purchase 5. The majority, they purchase 5 because they get a 10% discount. About 30% they purchased the 25 syringes, but we had a guy yesterday that ordered 2 25 syringes. Let me grab an HDMI connector. HDMI connector is perfectly in. It's making a flush connection with the board, and all we have to do is reflow. And I went over in the previous video, a while back, I went over how we do not have to solder this pin by pin. I'm gonna apply hot air, and you have to know your hot air station, how much heat to apply, when to pull out, and all that stuff. You do not want to burn the connector. So we're gonna apply heat. Let me focus. Now the wires are making a perfect connection with the HDMI pins. Once solder liquefies, everything is gonna flow down in place. We're gonna have a perfect connection. All right, and we should be good. Keep holding, keep holding. We want solder to harden. Like I always mention, a robber comes in, he steals stuff from your store, just let him go, keep holding. Your wife calls, do not answer. And somebody said an earthquake happens, especially in California here. Do not let go. Now we can let go. Now if we do have a loose pin somewhere, we'll take care of it. And let's check. Start with pin number 1. And look at this. The pin is making a perfect connection with the wire. It's not moving. Pin number 2, solid, solid, solid. Wow. Every single pin is making a connection. The pin is moving along with the wire. Solid, solid. Tell me this is not better than factory. No way this is not better than factory. Even with the wires. We did not even have to touch a soldering iron on those pins. Clean as a whistle. I like to preheat the board. Amazing job. Is it amazing because I did it? Is that why I call it amazing? Yes, it's because I did the job. Look at this. But do not show off when you have nothing to offer. You have 100% right to show off when you do a job like this. You have the right to show off when you have a microscope with this clarity, with that much clarity. Makes the job 1000% easier. and fun to work on. We are done. That's the connector right here. And the soldering on the back. I'm gonna hand the board over to Big Bus to reassemble and test. And I'll finish the video with testing the console. I'll be back. Okay, so I did not realize the customer mailed over the motherboard only. Big Bus just told me that the customer only mailed the board and not the whole console, so we're not gonna be able to test it. But we did a perfect job on the HDMI connector. There's nobody out there that's gonna be able to do a better job than what we did, restoring the tracers and soldering the connector, beautiful joints. We're gonna invoice and mail this back to the customer. I hope you enjoyed the video. Let me know what you think, leave it down in the comments. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and we'll do something else in the next video. Beauty and the Beast.